Welcome, dear beautiful soul. It is very good to connect with you, and I pray that you are doing well. During these crazy times, I endeavor to come to you with inspiration, with resources on calming that stress response, and most importantly, resources to give you some hope. And right now, that is what we are all in need of. We need to know that we're going to make it through this. Because we are. I believe very strongly that we will make it through this because we are resilient. I've been studying resilience for most of my professional career, but over the last 15 years, it's been something I've really honed in on because I've been curious to know, why do some people bounce back and thrive after a tragedy or some sort of a setback? And why do other people crumble and wither away after adversity? And what's interesting is we all are born with these same resilience muscles, but it's a matter of mindset in some cases as to who's going to bounce back or not. Do we fall into that victim role? Do we fall into that poor little old me syndrome? Are we waiting for a hero to come save us? Or could we develop our own hero mindset and save ourselves? So right now, I know that one of the biggest concerns, besides physical health, people are taking control with their masks and their gloves and their gel and staying at home. But the thing that people are feeling the least in control of is their financial future. Now, this virus thing is the first time we've seen a global lockdown. For many of us in our lifetime, we've never seen anything like it. But the financial crisis that is just starting to happen and will probably persist for some time, well, we've seen that many times over. Depending on what industry you've been in, you've maybe lived through dot-com bubbles or real estate bubbles and crashes. And of course, most recently, the 2008 crash. And what we know is that when there is a financial recession, there's quite often a recession depression. People fall into depression, anxiety, and despair, and that's when we see rates of suicide, homicide, depression, alcoholism, and other substance abuse, all on the rise. But the reality is, there are some people who make it through. They make it through those situations, and not only are they, surviving by the skin of their teeth, they can turn it around and end up thriving. And that's why I'm so inspired to share this interview with you today. In particular, for those of you who've been laid off or fired, for the self-employed, the entrepreneurs out there who are seeing your reserves dry up and you're not sure where your money's coming from. Some of you are probably going to finally do the things you really wanted to, getting personally healthy, working on your mind, your body, but also working on a business. Perhaps you're finally going to write that book that everyone's been telling you to, or you're going to start that business that you know you've really been wanting to do. Well, it might seem a little crazy to think of starting a business when we're facing a recession, when everything is so uncertain. But whether you do it by choice or you're being forced to do it, this interview is going to give you some insights and some support. So I am very happy to bring to you the voice of wisdom and some hope from a friend and a colleague. His name is Rob Goddard. He is the author of this lovely book, Suicide to Success. I'm giving away all what is to come. And he's also a contributor to this book, The Top 10 Traits of Highly Resilient People. So please join me in welcoming Rob Goddard. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. It's great to have a conversation with you, Andrea. It's good to join you.
Well, I'm glad that we are all. We've had some good times together over the last year or two.
Yeah.
I wish that this conversation were under different circumstances, for sure. But I'm very grateful that with the wisdom that you've shared in these books, that people will be able to leave this conversation with hope, most importantly, but also, number two, some action steps, some things that you can do practically rather than being in panic or in denial. I'm grateful to you, Rob, that you can share some insights in how you were able to recover from not just financial loss. I mean, as you've shared in these books, you were beyond rock bottom. You were in a true pit, having lost your job, your finances, your relationship with your children, your wife.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here.
Pleasure. No, I'm looking forward to just really going through personal journey with a hope that it acts as an encouragement and maybe an inspiration to others, that actually we don't have to be a victim of situation. We can actually do something about it if we choose to.
Yeah. And that's a really important point right there, of choice. And I think that's important for people to realize, because sometimes you feel like you have no choice. We feel powerless. And yet what your story does is it lets us know that we can choose. We can choose a more heroic angle. Rob, I'm grateful that you've actually shared with me some slides.
I have.
And would you like to share this presentation, which I've had the good pleasure to see live? Would you like to share that with our...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is it on your system?
It is coming up in just a second.
I said to Andrea that I'm a Luddite that has been reluctantly embracing technology over the last 20 years. My kids, of which I have a number, are far more adept than I am with technology. So here's hoping.
All right. Well, your slides are on the screen, so take it away.
Okay. So the great thing for me is my passion really is to help other people, particularly other business owners, triumph over adversity. If only when we were born, if only we were given a blueprint for life, it'd make it so much easier. Because we're not, and we often have to make it up as we go along. And I found that's what happened to me in 2008 when my life collapsed. And instead of feeling sorry for myself and feeling a victim of circumstances, I decided to set up my own business. I'd spent 30 odd years in the world of working for other people. And in 2008, when I lost my marriage, my money, and my children, I felt my world had collapsed, and I went into an immediate depression, had prescription drugs. But I'd had a life for those decades, a successful business career. I had a 4-bedroom house. I was in the top 1% of earners in the United Kingdom. I had a lot of materialism and hedonistic lifestyle. Trouble is, I developed a really bad relationship with money. And so I had all the things in life, all the stuff, but I actually spent more than I earned. And at the highest, I was earning £300,000 a year in income, but I was spending more than £300,000 a year. So when I lost my job, I lost my income, and I had huge debts, eye-watering debts, that I had very little way of servicing. So my world collapsed. But I made the decision in 2008, a week after Lehman Brothers collapsed in America, and the world went mad with the banking crisis and a recession set in. A week after that, I set up my own business, self-employed, a bedroom and a broadband connection. And so my story really starts from there. Is I had to assess, given I wasn't earning a salary and I had to sell myself to generate my own clients, what could I do? What is it? What were my skills? In the world of working. What abilities do I have? What skills do I have that someone might pay for. So it was a lot of soul searching. So I really kept to things that I'd done in the past that I'd done well for other people. And so I set up a business advisory firm, helping businesses to raise investment funding, management consultancy, and trying to sell businesses, because I'd done that before in a previous life, working for someone else. But it was hard. And the first 2 years, maybe could show the screen, the chart, Andrea. You can see the business I started in 2009 on the left-hand side was very, very small in terms of turnover, profit, and actual balance sheet value. It was tiny. And you can see over the next decade, it's grown substantially into a multi-million pound business from nothing, and from a position where I was at my lowest ebb in my life. So I often think, well, I wonder what it would be like now if I started in boom times. If I wasn't depressed, where would I be now? But I think what it was, setting up a business during the hardest time of my life and a global recession, actually made me hungry for success. I wanted to beat it. And as you can see from the graph, I didn't become a multimillionaire overnight. And there is so much, particularly on social media, where people are saying, buy my course, come on my mastermind, and you can 11x, 20x, 100x your business. I have to say, that's not my experience. It's taken me 10 years to get there during really hard times. So I really can't believe that you can become a highly successful multimillionaire tomorrow. It actually, titles of those books and those courses really should be how hard it is to start and grow a business and make money from it. I think that would be quite a truthful title. But one of the things, the resilience in me, was I didn't want to be beaten. And to be quite frank, I didn't have a choice, because no one was paying me a salary because I was self-employed. And so I had to go out there and win work. And I spent 2 years between 2008 and 2010 trying my best. And I did provide a livelihood, but I was still suffering badly from depression. And I was considering suicide. I was looking up websites on how to kill myself without pain. And I can tell you now, there is no solution like that. There isn't a painless death. And so after 2 years of depression, I actually ran away. I did a geographic, as I've been told in the past. I ran away to a country called Dubai in the Middle East. And it was running away from my debts, running away from my problems. I still wanted to do business online, and I still wanted to do business in Dubai. I thought, blank canvas, no one knew me, which was great, and I could start afresh. That was probably a really big mistake, because the one thing I did by running away to Dubai is I left my family and friends, my network of support behind. So I actually self-isolated. In depression, I've always said that suicide doesn't kill. It's actually isolation that kills. And I, by flying 3,500 miles, I isolated myself, and I set up in a country I'd never been to before, a culture I'd never experienced before, to try and earn money. And I did. It bobbled along. But I got to a point where I just gave up. It was too much hard work, and it was too painful. And I couldn't see a way out. I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. So I woke up one morning in 2010, and I traveled to the Burj Khalifa, which is a very large tower. Well, it's the largest tower still, I think. And I went to the top of that tower to find a fire exit with a view to finding a route out so I could jump that. I think it's about 1 kilometre high, something like that, to jump down from the Burj Khalifa. I don't know whether you've got that slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? When you're looking down from the Burj Khalifa, Andrea, nothing seems real. Well, you've been there.
Right. I mean, we were standing there just a few months ago for
I know.
for this documentary about resilience, and yeah, you're right. It seems surreal because everything is so tiny. It's like little ants.
It is, and actually it helps if you're looking to jump off of it, because if it doesn't look real, you're in this surreal mindset anyway. It actually helps that you can't see reality. You can see signs of life, but it doesn't look real. So why am I here talking to you today? And why didn't I drop to my death? Which would have taken 13 seconds, I'd worked out, terminal velocity. The reason is that the fire exit I chose was locked. And who on earth locks a fire exit door? Well, on that day, that week maybe, someone did, and thankfully they had locked that door, because I don't know if that door had been unlocked. I honestly don't know whether I would have gone ahead with it. And I'm thankful that I was never given that opportunity. There was a guy in America who threw himself off the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and he survived. He did jump. And he said the moment he let go of the bridge, he had this immediate sense that he'd done the wrong thing. So fortunately, I was never given that option. The fire exit was closed, it was locked. So I went back to my apartment, and I actually contacted a good friend of mine in the UK, Alex. And he actually came over, and he helped me get my thoughts together as a friend and as a coach, and asked me what I really wanted to do in life, and get me to envision it, look at the future, and then how was I going to achieve it. Real sort of basic steps.
Yeah.
And that and envisaging a future that I didn't have today was really uplifting. It gave me a sense that I've got something to go for, that I could get myself out of the mire. So I flew back in 2010 and set up. I did a refresh of the business I started in the first 2 years. I decided that I didn't want to bump along the bottom, just making a living, surviving. So I went out and I pitched for investment. I got a number of private investors to back me, because I'd had a good track record in business. They wanted to put some money in. They wanted me to put some money in, but I didn't have any. I was what the British people call brassic. I had no money. I had a small credit card. So the investors that put money into my business said, well, we want you to pay for it, but you can take it out of your salary. I thought, salary? I hadn't had a salary in 2 years. So that was very generous of them, actually. And so that's where I started the company Evolution back in 2011. And as you can see from that chart, it's gone on to fantastic things. Employ 15 to 20 people. Well, 20 people actually in the team, 15 employees and some contractors. So we're helping 20 families with their livelihoods as well. So in 2016, the business was sustainable. It was growing in profits, as you can see from the financial picture. I was still working 24/7 because I needed to make it work. But there was one thing nagging me, and in 2016, at the back of my mind, what I wanted to do was kill a couple of ghosts. And I felt I had to go back to Dubai. And because I'd failed in Dubai in 2010 in my head. So I went back in 2016 with Evolution UAE and set up another business. And that has become successful in the last 3 to 4 years as well. And I don't know, can the viewers see my picture?
They see you and the My Life in 2020 slide.
Ah, right. So they can't see what I'm holding up right now.
Well, here I can show them.
Okay. So I don't know how well you can see that, but the Arab gentleman on the side of me in the photograph is Adil. I went into business with an Emirati family.
Uh-huh.
And who would have believed it? In 2010, I was going to throw myself off the Burj Khalifa. A few years later, I'm going into business with an Emirati family, an Emirati company.
Yeah.
So I never envisaged that with Alex in 2010 when he was getting me to plan my life. But it's amazing how things can come from nowhere that you never anticipated, you never planned for. But because if you set that intent to move forward, some wonderful things can open up.
Well, I think what you're describing and what you've shared in the books is this, it wasn't immediate, obviously.
No.
But there were steps that you can look back on now that anyone who's in the same situation now, or worse, or getting close to losing all of your money, not sure where your security is coming from. You know, as you put it, you were depressed, you turned to alcohol, you were estranged from your family, and yet you started a business from a bedroom with broadband, you know.
And no money initially.
And no money, right. So it's not like, yeah. So, but I think if we can just take a step back, what's important is one of those first steps that you took with the help of Alex Petty, as you mentioned, is that he got you to start thinking of possibility.
He did.
And I think for most of us, if you've ever experienced depression, or you're just in a crazy time right now where everything seems uncertain, it's really hard to picture a bright and happy future. But going through that exercise of, well, if you did know what you wanted, what would that look like? Because, I've asked you this so many times before, like, if you were that depressed and literally at rock bottom, facing bankruptcy, all of that stuff, what could potentially possess you to even take that next step? Like, you weren't able to throw yourself off of the building and end your life, but you had stockpiled some pills. You could have taken your life another way, and yet there was something that allowed you to go at it again, to start that company and to push forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And I guess the first learning I would share is that when you're feeling at rock bottom, is not to go inside yourself further. It's actually to open up to someone else, at least one person that you know and trust, and for them just to listen to you. And that's what Alex did for me. So if you're feeling that right now, that your world is collapsing, you're spiraling into a mire, a black hole, then reach out to one person. And do you know what? Don't feel that you're going to be a burden to them, because you won't. You definitely won't be. In fact, they'll probably be honored that you would trust them and you would share and confide in them. So that's the bedrock, really. And what Alex did, and what people can do is around you, is they can get you to open up and think in a different way, rather than just being lost in your spiraling downward depression thoughts. Mm-hmm. So no, you're absolutely right, and that started me, and that started me off and gave me a bit of vision. I did come back to the UK after Dubai, because I felt that that's where I needed to start again. I needed to face my problems, face my issues, face my debts, which were even bigger in the year I'd been away. So I think there is a part of that, is to face your fears, look at the worst that can happen, and the worst that could happen is I'd made bankrupt, which I wasn't. But that, for me, they couldn't kill me. The tax authorities, the authorities, the people around me, society couldn't kill me. The worst that could happen is I would be bankrupt for 6 years. So I faced my fears and refreshed the business and got outside investment. And that would be advice. There may be many people listening to this that either are on the verge of losing their corporate jobs, regular income. It may be that you go back into work at some point and get another job, or it might be you might want to set up your own business, like I did. And I've not looked back. I'm unemployable now, Andrea. Having spent 35 years working for other people, I've now spent the last 10 years working for myself. I could not go back into employment.
Yeah.
So for me, setting up my own business helped me out of depression, bizarrely. And I've got a few tips I want to share with the viewers, if that's all right, in terms of the learnings.
Yes, please.
In that business journey. So I did mention it a moment ago. It's taken me years to build a successful business, not months. Yeah. So it's be prepared for the long haul. And that's why you should anchor in with other people around you that you know and trust. Mentors, get a mentor, a business mentor, a life coach. Andrea's been brilliant for me in the last 2 years. A little plug for you.
Thank you.
And secondly, one of my learnings was to decide what I'm good at. Because when you're depressed and suicidal, you look at what you're not, how bad you are, what a disappointment you are to others. And you're lying to yourself. I was lying to myself. I'll make it personal rather than putting it out there. I was lying to myself. Actually, I was quite a decent guy. And I had a lot of skills and abilities. But when you're depressed, you tend to forget those. You mask them over. So decide what you're good at and then establish what people want to buy. There's no point being good at something if no one wants to buy it. So in business. So have a look round. What are people buying? What do people spend money on? What do they want? What do they need? And then look at your skills and abilities and do a match. I would also encourage people is to set long-term goals. This is particularly important for business people, business owners especially. A bit like Alex did with me, rooftop, poolside in Dubai all those years ago. What do you see as the life that you want? Describe it to me. Show me pictures. Talk to me about it. So go through that process. What do you want from life? How do you want it to be? What does it look like? What's the shape of it? How do you feel about it? And then decide what your magic number is if you're a business owner. And a magic number is the capital sum, the money that you would love to have at some point down the line for you to finish one chapter in your life and start a new one. Money's a good thing. Money's an important thing. It's not the be all and end all, but if you haven't got much of it, it means a lot not having it. But what is your magic number? What are you working towards as a business owner? And then by setting the long-term goal, then you set yourself short-term goals, commitments. I set monthly, quarterly, annual and 10-year long-term goals. I've gotten into that habit now. And as you might remember from the chart, business growth isn't like that. It never is. There's actually 3 chunks of 4 years there. There've been setbacks. In year 2, I made a loss in year 2, and I had investors on board. And I made a loss because I employed someone. And that's not that they were bad. In fact, that person is still with me now. It's just it takes a hit on the business profits. It was all right being a one-man band, but you start employing people. Now you've got money going out very quickly every month called salaries and tax and national insurance. So be prepared for setbacks and disappointments. At the first setback, don't think, oh, that's it, I'm giving up. It never worked. Don't do that. Be resilient enough. Come back and think, right, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to tackle this problem and solve it? Who do I need to lean on? Who do I need to bring in? So it's bringing other people into your life to help you get through a problem. The 5th learning I had was always pay yourself first. I meet many business owners that never pay themselves the going salary for the work that they do. Don't do it, because what you're doing is giving yourself a false sense of profit. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. Give yourself an income, and then look to see how you're going to grow it. So never forget to pay yourself. You are the most important asset in that business. If you're the owner and it's a small company, without you, the business will probably fold. So look after yourself in that sense. Get investment backing if you can. the biggest single reason businesses fail is they run out of cash.
Mm-hmm.
Quite often when they're growing quickly.
And what would that look like today? I mean, I have heard that, of course, people are investing. There are still people with money. It's not like money has disappeared from the planet. You and I were talking about healthcare. If you happen to have anything that's health related, people are still buying that. I imagine people would still be investing in that. What would you suggest for someone if they wanted to look for investment money?
There's all sorts of communities of investors. It depends on how much. So anything up to about £500,000, so maybe €500,000, there are lots and huge numbers of wealthy people that have got cash sitting in the bank doing nothing, earning very little in interest. A lot of private investors want to go on that journey with entrepreneurs. They want the interest, the excitement, the fun of being involved. They don't want to do the day-to-day work, because you'll do that. But what they want to do is give you an injection of capital and go on that journey. They might give you coaching, mentoring, might help you on that journey. So anything up to about €500,000 you can get from private investment. That's what I did originally. Above that, I mean, there are alternative funding sources like crowdfunding. You go up a bit further, venture capital, and then private equity at the top of the tree. So there's all sorts of strata of investors. And I can say one thing for sure, on this planet, there is surplus money waiting to be used. Now, you might feel as a one-man band, a one-woman band business owner that there isn't much cash around. I can tell you there is.
Yeah.
It's just not in everyone's hands. It's just in a group of people's hands. And having money doesn't give them satisfaction. Using that money and putting it to work and seeing things grow gives the investor a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment.
And so one of the folks watching has mentioned that this is really helpful. So thank you all for tuning in. And thank you, Rob, for being available. How would you suggest that someone find those investors?
You can go on the internet, put in private investor, maybe put it out on something on social media. LinkedIn is a really good way. If you look up my LinkedIn profile, the first thing you'll see underneath my name is investor. Mm-hmm. So why not do a search on LinkedIn with investor as the key word? There's millions of us across the world.
Yeah.
Now, just because there's a lot, it doesn't mean to say they're going to back you. You've still got to sell yourself and your ability and your vision for the future. But technology is a wonderful thing in terms of finding people. You can use a third party to find investment funding, but they would expect paying usually up front, although some might do it on a commission only. But one of the good ways, and this is how I did it, is I went to my personal network. Mm-hmm. It's always easier to pitch yourself for investment if someone already knows of you and knows what you've done and your successes. And so that's perhaps a wonderful place to start. Again, LinkedIn, great business tool. Look at the people you're connected with and think, well, okay, have they got a successful business? They don't have to actually be an investor in their title, but it might be that they've built a successful business or three and they're looking to back someone else, you know, as a private investor rather than their company. The other area is potentially, and it's an area that I know quite well, is think who might want to buy your business one day. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I think as people are sort of in a reactionary mode, some of them are like you did. They are building a business because they have to. Either they were laid off or fired, or like some of the healthcare workers that I know, they just can't go back. They can't go back to their yoga studio or their doctor's office for a while. And so they're being forced to create online businesses. But I think it's important what you're mentioning is if we set it up right, we could actually be building a business that we can later sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could be your exit strategy.
Yeah.
You see, a lot of business owners, particularly micro businesses, see the business as an asset to generate income. It is, but it's so much more. It could be so much more. And over the years, I've encouraged other business owners to not only have that asset built for income, but also for capital growth. So that means building something of substance that doesn't rely on you as a human being. So
Right.
it's systems, it's processes, it's getting people on board that are better than you at doing the tasks that you used to do all the time. It's about building sustainability. So why not? I mean, it's one thing to earn an income. It's another thing to sell the business for £5 million.
Well,
I mean, what could you do with that money?
Well, we could take a page out of your book and do what you've done. It's like you've created a cushion now that you've got a home on the Mediterranean, boats, motorcycles. You've got what you need so that what you experienced in 2008, 2010, you're not going to experience that again, which of course I think is the most important.
Well, yeah, although I mean, that's a really good point, because someone that really helped me, a lady called Tracy Miller, years ago. Tracy was a confidence coach, and I engaged her to help me when I was depressed and just started in 2011. In fact, I still go to Tracy and her partner George's mastermind group now. But Tracy said to me something really profound when she was helping. I was shocked to bits with confidence. My confidence had gone.
Yeah.
She said, "What is the worst that can happen? Imagine it." And if the business, your fledgling business, toppled over, what happens next? And what I voiced to her is that I saw in my mind's eye a white Ford Transit van for me to live in, because you can build a little bunk bed. I'll be homeless at that. I was imagining being homeless and jobless.
Okay, so that was your worst. Your worst case scenario was
no money, no home, nothing. But I'd have my little van with a bunk bed, and actually the van is really helpful because the van I could use then to drive around and do house clearances, pick up my stock for free and then sell it on eBay or jumble sales or whatever. So that would be the worst, and that's what I said 10 years ago. I said to Tracy, that's the worst. That's what would happen. I'd live in a van.
And what did she say to you?
She laughed. She said, "What country?" I said, "It wouldn't be Britain. It'd be somewhere warmer."
Yeah.
Now, I'm asked now, what if your business? Because I own 4 businesses now, not just the one. If they all went tomorrow, what would you do? And the honest answer is that me and my partner and our children would probably move to the Mediterranean, to our other home. I've got a car, a boat, motorcycles, but what I would do, the worst that I would do now is I'd move and I'd retire to Albania. But I know I would set up another business in Albania.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to look at worst case scenario, but not dwell on it.
Yeah.
And think no one's going to take your life away.
That's true. I mean, only we can do that. Like the worst case scenario, ending up homeless, and for most people, you actually wouldn't. Someone would let you stay on their couch. You'd figure out that next sort of lily pad.
Yeah, and look, I've learnt to listen to other people in the last 10 years. I wasn't very good at that in the preceding 4 decades. It wouldn't come as a surprise to you, Andrew. But I have learnt in the last decade to listen to others. And it is good to do that. It's good to listen to the wise counsel of others. But I have to say, go with your gut feel. And because you can be true to yourself then. And another learning I had was to build a talented team around me as soon as I could. And initially, when I didn't have a lot of money coming into the business, it would be people on contract, not on salaries, or it'd be people that I knew in business that could help me. So give me encouragement, some advice, some guidance, and a steer. So you don't have to employ a lot of people initially, and I would suggest that you don't. You keep it lean until the business has grown to such a point where you can afford to take on a significant number of staff, and eventually the end game is you as the owner to make yourself redundant. How about that?
Yeah.
You could make yourself redundant from your own company. What a wonderful position.
Yeah, it's been lovely watching you and hearing how you have set up your company to do exactly that. Shelley is watching and wanted to know, how would someone who has not had any prior success learn how to pitch their business to investors?
Oh, that's a really good question. There are two ways. There's the free way, which is not the free way in as America, but there's the way that won't cost you any money,
Yeah.
which is to go to someone in business that's a friend of yours and just ask them for an hour or two of their time. Say that you've got an idea, a proposition that you want to share with them, and to practice on someone, or maybe several business people that you're friends with. Look, and business people tend to give their time to help someone that just wants to start. So practice. The other way is you can pay someone that's skilled in doing this. There's a company out there in the UK. In fact, they've got international offices, Angels Den. They prep people before a pitch. Whether you do it on a paid basis or you get people that you know to help you for free, do practice. Do not go in front of an investor without practicing. And one tip I'd give when you're pitching, because I'm an investor now, don't talk too long about your products and services. The big mistake that many people pitching for money make is they talk about the thing that they're really excited about, which is the product or service. And really, most investors are not that bothered, really, not in the fine minutiae. What they want to hear is they're backing you. If the business doesn't exist, they're effectively backing you as a person. So they want to know, have you got the skills and abilities and drive and motivation and confidence to bring this off? So that's not a product. That's not a service. And you can give financial forecasts that mean nothing. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. What they're doing is buying you. And so it very much for an investor, it's about the chemistry. And does this person have the skills and the ability, and above all, the attitude and motivation to build this business with my money?
Excellent.
Does that help, Shelley?
We'll see if she responds. Yeah. So that's really useful. I think all of this is useful information because we don't have to give in to the panic and the fear. Take that energy and channel it into really going after something that you maybe have dreamt of all along, and that is starting a business. Yes, it is a crazy time right now, but what you've said today is there is a surplus of money on this planet. Just because you may not be seeing the money in your bank account doesn't mean that the whole world is empty. And number two, you mentioned that there are investors out there. There are millions of them. And three, they don't want the money just sitting in their bank accounts because it's not bringing in the kind of return. The interest is not that great. But if they can invest in you and your dream or your mission, and you can convince them that you have the drive, the motivation, the passion, and the know-how, they can bet on you and see something grow. And the other thing that you mentioned is that an investor is not just investing for the return financially, but it's the experience of being along for that ride and that journey. So I think all of that is very helpful.
Yeah, money's not number one motivation because they've already got money.
Right.
It's about significance and purpose in life, and above all, having fun. Wow. And helping, and also there's a real sense of reward in helping a new business owner get off the ground and build a sustainable business. It really, really fills you with a sense that you've done something good with someone and for someone.
Yeah.
So there is as you were talking there was another little tip that came into my mind. When you're pitching for investment, when you're looking for an investor, investors tend to stick to industries that they have experience in themselves. They'll have a certain budget in their mind. So when you're looking for investors, be sure of how much you're looking investment. Is it 100,000 euros? Is it 500,000? Is it 5 million euros? And get yourself in front of investors from that sector. And most venture capitalists, private equity, private investors, on their websites, they have a list of the industries that they already invest into, and that will improve your chances of being successful. They tend to stick with industries that they know.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because they have the contacts, they have the expertise, the knowledge. People don't invest in things they don't understand. So I would never invest in a business that invented something in quantum physics. Spookily enough. I'm a simple man.
Yeah. Well,
Go on, sorry.
One of the things, I'm glad that you've kept your sense of humor. One of the things that you have shown over these years that I've known you now is that in the books and in your talks, you've gotten to a point of recognizing your own like brain chemistry. Like when you were depressed and at a low, you saw that the antidepressants didn't make much of a difference. You switched to alcohol, and then now you've been doing the serial investor stuff, which I know kicks in that dopamine, but you've set up this philanthropic legacy that's part of your next 10-year mission, which is also affecting brain chemistry. Like we know that in science, you can get a help. So that you keep mentioning that, that investors will also feel that sense of that good feeling, knowing that they've helped someone achieve their dream.
Yeah, a very good friend of mine, George Swift, talks about the chemical puppet. I mean, being a medical doctor, you'll kind of understand that. We can determine our thoughts and feeling can be determined by the chemistry inside us. And you are right. I mean, I have 4 businesses that I own right now. I'm a non-exec director in another 6. And I work with 2 charities. I have a lovely cancer charity here that I'm a trustee of that does some fantastic work in our part of the country. And also I'm a benefactor of an orphanage in Albania.
Yeah, wow.
My other half is from that country, and she has a real passion for the kids there that are on the streets. So that's a key advantage of building a successful, talented team that do the work day to day in your businesses. Is it gives me time back in my diary to do things I really want to do, and I don't have to put them off. So now I only do things I want to do with the people I want to do them with, the people closest to me, which is a real, I have to pinch myself still. It's a real luxury. Yeah. And I did have that vision in Dubai when we were talking about how would you like your life, and I said I want the ability to retire if I could, but then carry on working, but only do the things I want to do. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like a pipe dream, and now I'm living it for the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm on one level I could say that I was very fortunate, but on the other side, actually I earned that. Yeah. And I made it happen. But I made it happen in association with bringing people in, both with staff, with mentors, with people who came into my life. So it was, but ultimately, if I didn't want to do it, it would never exist right now. None of it. None of this lifestyle would have existed. Yeah. Would have been a different life. I don't know what it is, but I don't really care because I like this one.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to trade it in.
Awesome. Well, this has been so helpful. I've seen a few of the comments coming in, a very useful discussion, and thank you for the practical tips. I think what's important for everyone to know is you can get a copy of the books, Suicide to Success, or that's right, or the Top 10 Traits of Highly Resilient People. Rob's story is shared in both of these books, much more extensively in Suicide to Success. I've listed his website so that you can get a hold of him directly if you'd like to. This has been really helpful, Rob. I'm so grateful that you've been able to shine a light on what is possible for us. This is not a time to give up hope. There is money out there. There is a way forward. And yes, we will say that finding a mentor, like yours truly, could be helpful. Finding an investor like you is also a road that we can go. And you self-published your first book. Somebody did type in the chat they wanted to know how to bring out a book to their world. Of course, I'm a publisher, so we've got you covered there, Frank. But what has it been like for you? Because you didn't grow up thinking you were going to write books, did you?
No, in fact, I found out at school. I wasn't badged then because I'm very old, Andrea. I suffer from dyslexia.
Ah,
And in fact, even worse, I suffer from the numeracy side of it as well. I reverse numbers as well as letters.
okay.
And given my first job was in banking, reversing numbers is not an attribute that you want in banking if you're sitting on a till giving out money. No, I never seen myself as a writer. And it was a friend of mine encouraged me years ago to write a book about my journey because she said it might help someone avoid taking their own life. And if it's one person, you've saved a life. So I did write the first edition. It took me 3 years to come off the C drive, but I did put it on Amazon. I was just worried what people in business would say about me.
Right. But
You know,
haven't you found, you and I have talked about this. I was worried about sharing my experience with depression as well. I thought I would lose my credibility. What would people think? They wouldn't think I was competent. But what has it been like for you, in the business sector that you're in?
I found the reverse, that people warm to you because people buy authenticity in that sense. People don't like buying from cheesy, cookie cutter salespeople. What they want is they want to know the real you. And so, because buying something is an emotional transaction, it's less logical, it's more emotional. So I've actually found the reverse. I've had some surprises from business people who never knew my background. And they've said, wow, you're brave. I said, well, not really. I said I was scared. It took me 3 years to get it off my C drive and self-publish. And last year, as you know, I got a ghostwriter just really to put it in a storytelling format. Because being a typical guy, my first edition was very linear. It was this happened, that happened. And having the benefit of someone who's a professional writer make it into a story, I think really helps someone get the message.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a textbook.
Right. Well, I'm so grateful that you did. It really is beautiful. It's simple and sweet, and it will actually give you a lot of hope and inspiration because, as you've pointed out before, sometimes just finding out that someone's even in a worse situation can make you feel better about yourself, but also knowing that someone else has made it through. That's what we need right now. We need that sense of hope and a roadmap forward. So thank you again, Rob.
Pleasure. And the slideshow, which I haven't been able to see on my screen, but the slideshow, if anyone would like that, because there's some hidden slides, because it was too much text, I'm very happy to send out to anyone as a PDF. If they get in touch with me through my website, I'll send you the full slide deck, because that might be just a useful brochure.
Yeah. And also,
an 8 memoir.
And you've also got a Facebook group where you are offering support to people, mainly on the mental health side, right?
Yeah, there's 200 of us. Who'd have thought? It's called Triumph Over Adversity. It's on Facebook. You may have to link through me on my personal Facebook page, but yeah, basically there's people there that are doing pretty well. There's people that are struggling. We're all in one group, and there's positive comments and ideas and insights, and it's to help one another. We've got 200 people. Who would have thought? I struggled 10 years ago to speak with one person.
Yeah.
Now I've got 200.
Yeah. Well,
so,
bless you.
Triumph over adversity.
Bless you. That's so useful because that's the number one thing that anyone can do if they're dealing with stress and anxiety or contemplating suicide. As much as you want to hide and go into isolation, particularly the men, as you like to point out, we really do need to reach out to at least one person. And at least with online media, you can reach out and remain somewhat anonymous, but just knowing that you're not alone, I think is huge.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have put it better. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rob. Well, there you have it, my friends. You can see the books, The Top 10 Traits of Highly Resilient People and Suicide to Success by Rob Goddard. We have other resources that you'll probably see from Rob, some other interviews that we've done. But just know that you're not alone. There is hope for us. We will get past this You are resilient. And by reading these books and tuning into your own resilience traits, you can strengthen them. And not only will you survive this, but you can come out thriving.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for being here. I wish you a fabulous weekend. And wherever you are in the world, please remember that you are a gift to this world. So share your presence with passion. Much love, everyone. Bye.